Today we're going to talk about how to throw the jab and the cross. Okay, we're going to focus on the body mechanics today. This is not the application of the jab and the cross. The theory of throwing the jab and the cross is a little bit different than applying it in combat. So for now, we're going to focus on the details and how to actually perform them. We'll start off in our stance for now. Okay, my rear heel's off the ground. My hands are up. I'm in a good proper stance. Your jab is always your front hand, the lead hand. If I was a southpaw, I'd have my right hand forward and this would be my jab. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed. Whenever somebody says the jab, it's always a hand that's in the front. Okay, so what a jab is, my hand is up. It fires exactly from where my hand is. In a straight line, I initiate with my hip. See that? See how my shoulder moves with my hip? Remember what I said in a previous lesson? Your shoulder is connected. So when my hip initiates, my elbow stays down, my fist shoots out in a straight line, and I rotate it on impact. My chin is down. My shoulders protecting my jaw, my other elbow's in, my other hand is protecting my jaw, and I have a slight pivot. And then it comes right back to your stance. Okay, let's try it from this angle. So I'm in my stance, I turn my hip. See how my hip pushes my elbow out? So now the power from my leg is coming up, driving through my hip to my elbow, shoots out, turns on impact. Chin is down. My shoulders relax. My shoulders not up. And we'll talk a little bit about that, why that's important. Comes right back. So a couple things that happen when people are throwing the jab or learning the jab. One thing I see a lot of is they'll drop this hand. Okay, see how this stays open? We don't want this. This hand stays home. Anytime you're throwing a punch, doesn't matter what punch it is, one hand is gonna be at home at all times, okay? The other thing that I see a lot of is people will drop their hand here and then throw. We call it the quick draw, drop and throw. There's this natural tendency we have to develop power. Again, I think we talked about this before, but from our shoulder. And people want to load up, drop their hand, and try to get momentum out of it. That's not where power comes from. That's not where speed comes from. It's not where power comes from. Hands stay in tight. The other thing, I just kind of talked about a little bit, right? People will cock their shoulder back and try to throw this, right? Look how much time this takes, okay? You're relaxed, shoot straight out, comes right back. That's your jab. Next thing, we'll talk about the cross. Everything is almost identical to the jab. It's a straight punch, elbow stays down, wrist on impact, except we're throwing it from our rear hand. So when I throw my cross, see my hip? It initiates from my hip. See how that turns my shoulder and my elbow? Shoots out. Rotate on impact. Other hand defending. My elbows defending my ribs. Comes right back. See that? Pivot. Straight out. Right back. Same thing with the cross. I see a lot of this. People want to throw from back here and they cock this elbow back. Look at all this open and now it's a lot easier to see it coming. And you don't have the same power either. And I'll break those details down a little bit in a moment. But they cock back and throw. So easy to see coming. elbow stays down, straight out. Another thing that'll happen, again, they drop this hand too. I don't know why, but our bodies just want to do it naturally when we're not trained. So you got to train yourself to keep your hands up when you're throwing your punches. Okay? Throw it from this angle, pivot. See how I start my hip? See, I'm pushing off with my back foot. That's where my power is coming from. Straight and back. Now, another thing that we could do to practice this is put them together with a jab cross, or we call it a 1-2. So if I throw my jab, now the pivot I make, pulling my hip back, goes right into my next punch. See how that connects? So if I pull this hip back, this hip can go forward. Okay, so if I go jab, as I pull it back, the other fist comes out. Cross, jab. See how they stick together? They string together. 1, 2, 3. Straight out, straight back and out, straight out. Elbows come back. Got it? So remember when we talked a little bit about when people shrug their shoulders up in their stance, right? And this shoulders tense, you're not going to have any power or speed off of this, number one. Number two, sometimes when people throw their jab, see how their shoulder come up because they're throwing from their shoulder and they throw it out. Well, what would happen is when they make impact, think about you're hitting a surface at the edge here, right? And the impact is going to go back through your arm. See how my shoulder's moving? If I hit my target here and I get the feedback on it, it's going to push my shoulder out. So now what I have to do is tighten up my shoulder to keep my arm from moving. And that's why people get sore shoulders when they're practicing their jab. There's a lot of intermediate and advanced people that I come across, and that's what happens. When we train the jab, their shoulder gets very tired. That means you're using your shoulder. We don't want to do that. Shoulders are relaxed. You want your shoulder relaxed into the shoulder socket so that when you throw it, the feedback goes back into my body and then it transfers down to my leg to support my leg. Same thing on the cross. When we lift this up and we throw from here, see that? It makes your shoulder go back. So I want to relax my shoulder so it goes back into my body and feeds back to my leg. And a couple things you could do to kind of feel that. The first thing that I have my students do, I'll put my hand up and hold it and let them push against it to position themselves so they can feel it. But you could go up to a wall and do it. You just walk up to the wall, put your fist on the wall, get in your stance, relax, and start pushing against it. You'll feel if your shoulder's getting tight or if it's going back down into your leg, right? And do the same thing with your cross. And then as time goes on, you just practice. Stand in front of a mirror, relax, jab, cross, jab, cross. All right, so the last thing that we're going to discuss is punching to the body, the jab and the cross to the body. All the mechanics are the same. The only thing we're going to do is I'm going to bend my knees. That's it. What I see a lot of is people will bend their backs. Number one, we're putting a lot of strain on our back muscles. Number two, my head and my weight is now over my front foot. So it's going to be very difficult to move. I want to just drop my knees, bend my knees and punch. So if I need to move while I'm down, I can. My hips stay over my feet at all times. That's why I move with my hips and I initiate my punches with my hips so that my feet can move, right? If we're throwing with our shoulders and our head, we start having to shift our weight so much if we want to move. See this action here? This slows me down. Want to be able to move my feet, change angles. So quick recap. Our jab, straight punch, elbow down, initiated from our hip, goes out straight, comes in straight. One hand's always defending. Our cross, same thing. Initiates from the hip, elbow stays down, shoots straight out, comes right back. If we go to the body, the only thing we do, we bend our knees. Jab, cross. If you have any questions at all or want to share some video, the best place to do it would be the Combative Concepts Facebook group. See you next time.